Mr. President, we have on the floor of the United States Senate the transportation bill. And you might wonder why a bill that is the #1 jobs bill that we can do here is moving so slowly. You might wonder, any normal person would wonder, why a bill that is so popular that it has everyone from the AFL-CIO to the Chamber of Commerce supporting it is moving so slowly. You might wonder why it's moving so slowly, since the transportation authorization for all of our highway and transit projects expires in about a month. You might wonder why it's moving so slowly. Why isn't anyone here? What is going on? And yesterday I came here and said I didn't see a clear path forward for this bill. And it's very disturbing. And I'll tell you why it's so disturbing, and that is, when you look at the construction area of our economy, it is still down. We have, is it 1.5 million unemployed construction workers? And if you think of in your mind's eye what that is, I have a picture here of a stadium during the Super Bowl. And Mr. President, you could see this stadium, and I want you to picture everyone sitting in this stadium is an unemployed construction worker, and think about 15 stadiums full. Yesterday I said it was 10. That was incorrect. I stand corrected today. 15 stadiums full of unemployed construction workers just praying that we pass this bill because they are unemployed, and this bill will create up to 2.8 million jobs. It will save 1.8 and create up to 1 million. So it will make a huge dent on employment in the construction sector. Well, yesterday I said I didn't see a clear path forward. Today I see a path forward. I really do. There's been some progress overnight, but it isn't as clear as it should be. We asked both sides of the aisle, we said, can you come up with amendments that you feel compelled to offer to this bill and try to keep them related to transportation? Well, the bad news is there's a lot of extraneous amendments that were filed. First and foremost, birth control. Birth control. The Blunt Amendment, not only does it say that any employer could say they have a moral objection. It doesn't even have to be religious objection. Any employer. So if I'm an employer and I employ 100 people, and let's say I believe in prayer over medicine, and I can then deny health care to all my employees. This makes no sense at all. And Senator Blunt says, well, you could take it to court. Oh, sure. Some low-paid employee is going to take it to court. So we have to deal with this birth control amendment and health care amendment on a highway bill. As I said yesterday, at first when I saw a birth control amendment, I thought maybe it says you can't take your birth control pills when you're on a federal highway. What is going on here? There's no relation. It's bizarre to offer these unrelated amendments. Then we have an amendment on Egypt. Now, frankly, I'm ready to vote on the birth control amendment. I'm happy to vote on an Egypt amendment, although I believe, this is my own view as a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, that when we have such delicate negotiations going on over the safety of our citizens who are being held there, we have to be very careful not to interfere in that important backdoor diplomacy that's going on. But we have one senator that is holding up everything because he insists that we have to take a stand on Egypt, even though we have Americans in danger over there. My Republican friends really have to understand what's at stake here. The business community, the labor community, everyone is in favor of this transportation bill, and we're going to have to face votes that are unrelated. There's an idea to repeal a very important environmental regulation that will clean up the pollution from boilers. Pollution that is dangerous. It's mercury. It causes brain damage. It's arsenic. It's lead. And as I said yesterday, and Mr. President, I don't know whether you've had this experience, I have never, in the history of my electoral career, which spans a long time, have anyone come up to me and say, please, please, Barbara, we really need more arsenic in our air. We need arsenic in our water. We need more lead. We need more mercury. People don't want it. Why on earth would they now come forward in a highway bill and repeal a very important rule that will make our families healthier? That's what my Republican friends are putting out there. They want to drill off our coast, even though it might interfere with the fishing industry, the tourist industry, the recreation industry. I just would urge my colleagues, in a hand of friendship, we are happy to look at transportation-related amendments. We can work those through. My staff and Senator Inhofe's staff are have a very close working relationship, and we can take these relevant amendments and sit down and work through them. But obviously, if there are going to be a series of amendments on birth control and foreign policy matters and extraneous matters, it makes it very, very difficult. It diverts our attention from what's at stake. The clock is ticking on us. This transportation authorization that we have expires in March. So here's where we are. We're going to have a cloture vote on the various titles to the bill. The finance title, the banking title, the Commerce Committee title. And I want to praise all of the committees. They've done their work. 4 committees, including ours, the EPW Environment and Public Works Committee. We have all done our work. We've done our jobs. We did what we had to do. We passed out the legislation. Now let's marry all the pieces and get going with legitimate amendments and get this done. Get this done. And so I urge colleagues to vote yes on cloture. I know some have problems with one of the titles, and we can amend that. If you don't like something in that title, we can amend it. And if we don't make cloture on the first round, we will come up with a path forward after that. But please, it won't work if we have all of these bizarre, extraneous amendments. I'm not saying the amendments are bizarre. Some are. But they're extraneous. And they don't belong on this bill. Now, I want to take a minute to remind my colleagues how popular the transportation authorization is. President Reagan, do we have that ad? We're going to show you the ad that's being run, but President Reagan was very clear on why it was so important to pass a transportation bill. Here's what he said. The state of our transportation system affects our commerce, our economy, and our future. He said, clearly, this program is an investment in tomorrow that we must make today. And there is a very good coalition out there, broad coalition, taking ads on the radio. And after they quote Ronald Reagan, they say, it's time for leadership again, for new investments in transportation, to keep America moving and jobs growing. Call Congress, tell them to pass the Highway and Transit Bill, and once again make transportation job number 1. So this is out on the radio airwaves. I'm very grateful that it's happening. I really, really am. And also we have ads in the various newspapers. Then there's another one that marries up 2 presidents' statements, President Reagan and President Clinton. They quote President Clinton by saying, by modernizing and building roads, bridges, transportation, and railroads, we can usher in 2 decades of unparalleled growth. And then they also quote Ronald Reagan again. He says, a network of highways and mass transit has enabled our commerce to thrive. And at the end it says, tell Congress to pass the highway and transit bill and make transportation job number 1. So here we sit, and I wanted to show you, I don't know if people could see this. I hope you can see this, Mr. President. This is an ad that is running all over today. President Reagan stood up for public transportation, will you? And then they quote him, and then they say, a recovering economy is exactly the time to rebuild America. President Reagan knew it in 1983 when he signed the law dedicating motor fuel revenues to public transportation for years to come. But now the House, and they talk about the problem with the House bill, and they tell the House to fix their proposal, which we hope that they are doing as we speak. So this is a very important endeavor. You know, again, I've been around a long time, Mr. President. I have never seen a coalition, the likes of the coalition we have seen. Can you show the chart that shows over the 1,000 organizations? We have a coalition, Mr. President, is the broadest coalition I have ever seen in my life in every single state, whether it's Ohio or California or New York or Alabama or Nevada or Kentucky. I am telling you, this is a strong coalition. And this is what they wrote to us. In 2011, political leaders, Republican and Democrat, House, Senate, and the administration stated a multi-year surface transportation bill is important for job creation and economic recovery. We urge you to follow words with action. Make transportation job number 1 and move immediately in the House and the Senate to invest in the roads and the bridges and transit systems that are the backbone of the U.S. economy. It's business, large and small, and communities of all sizes. And that is basically from the letter signed by over 1,000 organizations. Do you have a list of organizations? And I see that my friend from California is here. She may be speaking on this topic or another topic, and I'm going to yield to her momentarily. I think it's important to take a look at the organizations I talked about just to give you a sense of it. First of all, every state in the union is listed on this letter, Mr. President, and I would ask unanimous consent to place in the record this letter and the list of organizations listed by state.
Without objection, so
Thank you. And I'm going to name a few of them. The American Composite Manufacturers Association, the American Concrete Pavement Association, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, the American Nursery and Landscape Association, the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Associated General Contractors of America, the National Society of Professional Engineers, the Natural Resources Defense Council, the North American Die Casting Association, the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, the Reconnecting America, the Retail Industry Leaders Association, the Transportation for America, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Travel Association, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners, the Laborers International, the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association. It goes on and on, 1,000 groups representing Democrats, Republicans, independents. I am so grateful to them, and I speak with them, frankly, a couple of times a week to tell them what we are doing here to move forward this important bill. And I told them yesterday that they needed to contact every single senator in this chamber to let them know what is at stake in their states. In closing, I will say this. Madam President, sometimes when we act, we not only do something good, which this bill will do. It's a reform bill. It's a great bill. And it adds to the TIFIA program, an idea that came out of Los Angeles and is going to create up to 1 million new jobs while protecting 1.8 million jobs. So we do good things. But we also, Madam President, when we do this, we stop bad things from happening. What will happen if we fail to act by March 30th and there is no action to fill that trust fund, which our bill does? 600,000 jobs will be lost. And later today, at a time when others are not here, I will go state by state. Here it is. Estimated jobs lost. There would be a 35% cut in transportation funding if we don't pass this bill and the finance title that raises the funds necessary. And we will break this down. And let me tell you, it's an ugly picture for us to have to go home and face the music at home and tell construction workers that even though we have 1.5 million unemployed construction workers, that's going to go up by 600,000 jobs. We cannot afford to let this bill stop. I will not let this bill go away. I will assert every right I have as a U.S. Senator from California, where we have 63,000 of these jobs at stake. And I'm going to be here on the floor, and we're going to get this bill done one way or another. And we stand ready to work with our colleagues, to work with our Republican friends to go through these amendments that are relevant and urge them to backtrack on these very unrelated amendments. And I thank you so much, and I would yield the floor.